what's the Jewish Messianic concept? Is he going to be a king or a servant? What do Jews expect in a Messiah? Let's deal with that. Here's the objection. Rabbi Shraga Simons wrote, what is the Messiah supposed to accomplish? The Bible says that he will build the third temple, gather all Jews back to the land of Israel, usher in an era of world peace, and end all hatred, oppression, suffering, and disease. Spread universal knowledge of the God of Israel, which will unite humanity as one. The historical fact is that Jesus fulfilled none of these messianic prophecies. Christians counter that Jesus will fulfill these in the second coming, but Jewish sources show that the Messiah will fulfill the prophecies outright, and no concept of a second coming exists. So I want you to think, as we touch upon each objection, how would you respond to it? I mean, obviously there would be a lot of ways to deal with it. I've chosen to cite their own material. But think about that, because these are real objections. So what's the response? Well, the fact is, this statement here is actually very typical. This is a very generalized messianic concept. You could ask almost any Jew, what kind of Messiah do you expect? And the answer would be something like this. Okay, it's very general. It is a misconception, however, because the truth is that in the past and in the present, the Jews have actually held to many different messianic concepts. So just saying this is what we believe, this isn't necessarily so. In fact, some Jews have believed that the Messiah would be a divine agent, and some that he would be a mere human being. Some that he would work through miracles, some that he would work through politics, some that he would bring world peace instantly, and some that redemption would come gradually. Some even taught that one Messiah would come 2 times, or some taught that 2 Messiahs would come 1 time each. And some taught that he would be a humble, suffering servant who dies for our sins, and others that he would be a conquering king who overthrows Israel's enemies instantly. So there really is a lot of variation. And for instance, in the writings of one single of the ancient sages, Rabbi Moses ben Maimon, also known as the Rambam or Maimonides, even within his own writings, we see 2 options. For instance, in his Mishnah Torah, he writes, do not think that King Messiah will have to perform signs and wonders, bring anything new into being, revive the dead, or do similar things. It is not so. But in his epistle to Yemen, he writes, how and where will the Messiah emerge? An individual will arise who will not be recognized before his appearance, and the signs and wonders that he performs will prove the truth of his claim and the truth of his lineage. So we see already there's different concepts out there. It's not right to say we believe in this one single. The Talmud at Sanhedrin 98a states, it is written, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, Daniel 7:13. While it is written, behold, your king comes to you lowly and riding upon an ass, Zechariah 9:7. If they are meritorious, he will come with the clouds of heaven. If not, lowly and riding upon an ass. You see that? The recognition that, what's he going to do? Is he going to come like a servant on a donkey? Is he going to come with the clouds of heaven? You see that? They're speculating. In Pesikta Rabati 15:10, my beloved is like a gazelle, citing Song of Solomon 2:9. Rabbi Isaac said, as the gazelle appears and then disappears, so Moses, the first Messiah, appeared to Israel and then disappeared from them. Rabbi Berechiah said in the name of Rabbi Levi, like the first Redeemer, so the last Redeemer. As the first one appeared before them and then disappeared from them, so the last Redeemer will appear to them and then disappear from them. And Midrash Rabbah, Ruth 5:6 states virtually the same thing. So you see already concepts developing about a Messiah who comes and goes. Now, let's touch upon the 2 Messiah theory. Again, will one Messiah come twice, or will 2 Messiahs come 1 time each? Let's look at that for a moment. Raphael Patai, noted anthropologist and biblical scholar who taught Hebrew at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, states, "This splitting of the Messiah in two persons, which took place in the Talmudic period, achieved another purpose besides resolving the dilemma of the slain Messiah," referring to Daniel 9. "According to an old tradition, the Messiah was perfectly prefigured in Moses, but Moses died before he could lead the children of Israel into the land of promise. Consequently, for the parallel to be complete, the Messiah too had to die before accomplishing his great task of ultimate redemption. Since, however, the Messiah would not be the true Redeemer of God if he did not fulfill that task, the only solution was to let one Messiah, like Moses, die, and then assign the completion of the work of redemption to a second Messiah." Now, Zechariah 12:10 states, "I will pour on the house of David and on the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and supplication, and they will look on me whom they pierced. Yes, they will mourn for him as one mourns for his only son, and grieve for him as one grieves for a firstborn." And Dr. Abraham Cohen states, "In the Talmud, the passage is interpreted with reference to the Messianic era, and the martyr who was thrust through is the Messiah, the son of Joseph, who will fall in battle." Okay, this statement, the son of Joseph, that's when they were speculating about the two Messiahs, sometimes they were referred to them as one of them's the son of Joseph, one of them's son of David. So Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David. One of them would come and die, and the next one would come and bring redemption. That's the speculation. But you see here concepts about a Messiah who dies. There's no denying it. It's right here in their writings. But the objection didn't say anything about that. It completely ignores it, you see. Now let me cite Pesikta Rabati 37:1. And remember, this is homilies. So at some point in history, you could have gone to a synagogue of the days gone by and heard a sermon much like this one. "In the year when the Messiah appears, the patriarchs will ask him whether he is displeased with Israel because of the afflictions he endured on their account. The Messiah will reply that all he did was for the sake of the patriarchs and the children of Israel, that they might benefit from God's abundant goodness, that God will cloak the Messiah in something of the splendor of his own glory. The patriarchs will arise and say to the Messiah, 'Ephraim, our true Messiah, even though we are their forebearers, thou art greater than we, because thou didst suffer for the iniquities of our children, and terrible ordeals befell thee, such ordeals that did not befall earlier generations or latter ones. For the sake of Israel, thou didst become a laughingstock and a derision among the nations of the earth, and didst sit in darkness, in thick darkness, and thine eyes saw no light, and thy skin cleaved to thy bones, and thy body was as dry as a piece of wood. And thine eyes grew dim from fasting, and thy strength was dried up like a potsherd. All these afflictions on account of the iniquities of our children. All these because of thy desire to have our children benefit by thy goodness, by that goodness which the Holy One, blessed be he, will bestow in abundance upon Israel. Yet it may be because of the anguish which thou didst suffer greatly on their account, for thine enemies put thee in prison, that thou art displeased with them. The Holy One, blessed be he, will lift the Messiah to the heaven of heavens and will cloak him in something of the splendor of his own glory. He will be told, 'Ephraim, our true Messiah, be thou judge of these, and do with them what thy soul desires.' He will be shut up in prison, a time when the nations of the world will gnash their teeth at him every day, wink their eyes at one another in derision of him, nod their heads at him in contempt, open wide their lips to guffaw. As it is written, they that see me laugh me to scorn. They shoot out the lip, they shake their head. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue cleaveth to my throat. And thou layest me in the dust of death," citing Psalm 22 there. "Moreover, they will roar over him like lions, as it is said. They open wide their mouths against me as a ravening and roaring lion. I am poured out like water. All my bones are out of joint. My heart has become like wax. It is melted in my innermost parts." Now, let me point out there's a footnote of interest to this text that states, when Israel's sin exceeded all bounds, God first vented his wrath on the sticks and stones of the temple. It may be that after the temple's destruction, the Messiah, by the same token, became a divine whipping boy upon whom God's wrath was vented. Now, does that sound like the Messiah of the objection? Does that really sound like this conquering king who instantly brings world peace and conquers enemies? Not at all. You know what a whipping boy is? Say you were a prince and you had to be punished for something by whipping. Well, you would call your whipping boy, and your whipping boy would come and take the punishment for you. So that's what it's saying about the Messiah, our whipping boy. Now, I hope you understand what we're looking at is speculation. In other words, reading through the Old Testament and trying to figure out what is the Messiah going to be like. And that's why, well, maybe like this or like this or like this. They were coming up with different ways to understand what the Messiah would be like. For instance, like we said, will there be one or two? Will it be a servant or a king? These were all speculations, trying to figure it out. That's why we have all, but obviously there's so many, it's really wrong to say this is the one that we have always believed. Now, obviously, I think we've seen that there is no one single clear-cut Jewish Messianic concept. Okay, so that would lend the question, though, then how could we say for sure that the Christian Messianic concept is wrong, right? And mind you, what we call the Christian Messianic concept is really the Messianic concept that the Jews who believed Jesus was the Messiah held to. Okay, so that was the Jewish Messianic concept. Now, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I do believe that one of the things that happened is there were certain Messianic prophecies. They were understood to be Messianic from the Tanakh. And as the Jews who believed Jesus is the Messiah started appealing to them, saying, you see this prophecy, this one, Jesus fulfilled them. Then what happened in Judaism is they started saying, well, those aren't really Messianic. We don't really believe those are Messianic. The ones we believe are Messianic are the ones Jesus didn't fulfill. Okay, now that's quite a claim. At the end of this class, I'll actually give you some specifics about why I'm saying that and why I actually believe that kind of thing happened. And I've often thought, show me an unbiased person, and I'll show you a corpse. But I hope I can make an unbiased statement and say that I do believe that the quote-unquote Christian Messianic concept is a superior concept, because it doesn't just appeal to the prophecies about a servant, or not just to the ones about the king, but it takes them all. It accommodates all. In two comings, yes, but it doesn't just say this is it. This is the only concept. It says we take all the Messianic prophecies, both lines as they're called, lines of prophecies, and we apply all of them, right? And let me point out that there are some 558 separate quotations from rabbinic writings in which 456 biblical texts are interpreted messianically. And what do you find there? Well, you find various opinions. That's the point. You don't find just the Messiah will be a king, he'll conquer, bring instant world peace. That's one single option of the many, okay? So what is the Jewish opinion on of Jesus? Well, it runs the gamut, really, to extremes. Some say he was a rabbi, maybe even a prophet, but he was mistakenly deified by his followers. Or he was a false prophet, and he died the death that he deserved. And of course, some Jews just don't like him because, you know, Jesus said, bring my enemies before me and kill them. So, is this an apologetics class? Come on. You gonna let me say that and just sit there? That's rather fascinating. Yeah. But they take the third option, which is that it was his followers who mistakenly deified him. Okay. Yeah, but that I'm just telling you that's their point of view. Yeah. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
They also didn't like him because he pointed out the wrong things.
Nobody likes that, but yeah, you're right. Okay, so I mean, come on, you know. I say Jesus said, bring my enemies before me and kill them, and come on. I need at least 10 people to say, what? I think that was Muhammad. No. Well, look, you know why I'm saying that? Rabbi Ariel Kaplan wrote, in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus instructed his followers, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, and do good to those who hate you. This might have been a fine lesson if Jesus himself lived up to it. But when it came to his own enemies, Jesus declared, take my enemies who would not have me rule over them, bring them here and kill them before me. That's what he says. And Gerald Siegel says he who advocates killing enemies cannot be called the ruler of peace. You know? Where do they get it? That's what you need to ask. Okay, you said Jesus said that. Where? Well, I'll show you where. Come here. Come here. I got a red letter edition of the Bible. All right, so here. Read the verse 27 there. Is it in red, first of all?
It's in red.
It's in red.
But bring here those enemies of mine who did not want me to reign over them and slay them before me.
Ah, there you go.
Well, wait a minute.
Bye.
Wait. I got to see the rest of it.
Oh, what's the context? He wants to see the rest of it. Good. See, in these quotations where I read this information, no, it didn't tell you anything about context or nothing. It just says, here's what Jesus said. How do you like that? And that's why I brought it up. Because, you guys have been in apologetics 3 months now. You need to stop, and good. You say, wait a minute. Did he say that? Oh, yeah? Where? Oh, yeah? What's the context? All right? Are we getting it now? Yeah, okay. But, but that's a little different from saying, come here, right in front of me, kill him. You know what I mean? Yeah. Right. Well, there, Luke 19:27. Now, Luke 19:1, Jesus told them a parable. And the person in the parable makes that statement. So did Jesus say it? Well, it's in red. Yes, he said it, but they were not his words. It's the person in a story that he's telling that says that. You see how tricky that is? Jesus said it. Yeah, but they weren't his words. A person in a story said that. Jesus was just telling the story. You see what I mean? So